Hi, this is David McCann for WebTNG. In this video, I want to look at using a virtual private server for hosting your websites. Specifically, I want to look at using UpCloud, which is a VPS provider, along with RunCloud, which is a server management control panel for managing your VPS and your sites. My situation is this. I have 8 WordPress sites, which are either my own sites or sites I'm hosting for others like nonprofit, which I'm not being paid for. So the costs aren't something I'm going to pass on to clients. There are 3 dimensions when considering hosting: price, quality, and convenience. And for this set of 8 WordPress sites, I'm looking for the sweet spot. For price in the WordPress space, you can go from free to diamond-encrusted Royal Deluxe, with a huge range in between. Quality also varies greatly, from server farms that stuff as many accounts on them as possible, to physical dedicated servers with fast processors, fast disk, and fast network. Generally, if you move the slider closer to free, then the quality goes down. And if you move the price slider up, the quality follows. In terms of convenience, it goes from doing it yourself on the command line to having it done for you by experts. And convenience also generally tracks on price. It's in the middle range, though, where most of us live. We have to look at the options and figure out what our comfort zone is. Let me show you what I mean about price and performance and convenience with some real-world examples. SiteGround is a very reputable hosting provider, which I recommend for new WordPress users. Their entry-level price is only $5.95 a month, which is very reasonable. However, when you go to renew, it's $19.95 a month, basically $20 a month, for shared hosting. Cloudways is another option that I recommend. This is for people who are a little bit more of a power user. Site builders, say, that have more than one site and know what they're doing. Their entry level is $10 a month, and you get your own virtual private server. With Cloudways, you're not going to get the same level of support you do with SiteGround. Of course, they'll help you with Cloudways issues, but they're not going to answer basic questions about WordPress. On the high end, something like Kinsta. This is the Rolls-Royce of WordPress hosting. For me, having 8 WordPress sites, I'd need to pay $200 a month, but this is a super great platform and super great support. When I outgrew SiteGround hosting, I moved to this entry-level plan on Cloudways using a Vultr VPS, $11 a month. I got 1 gig of RAM, 1 processor core, 25 gigs of storage, and 1 terabyte of bandwidth, and that was great for a few years, but now I've outgrown that. I'm getting out-of-memory errors, and normal activities on the WordPress admin are taking a long time to complete, and very slow. So it's time to move up to the next step. And as you move up a step on Cloudways, what I noticed was that the price doubles. So I took a look at DigitalOcean, Linode, and Vultr to see what the pricing was for the VPS itself. And what you see is it's $10 a month for DigitalOcean, it's $10 a month for Linode, and it's $12 a month for Vultr. So Cloudways is basically doubling the price of the VPS. And that was okay on the low end, but it's not as great a value as you step up. So I started considering managing my own virtual private server. 20 years ago, I worked as a network and Windows server admin. And back when I was doing Drupal, I hosted my Drupal sites on a Linode VPS. So I'm familiar with the concepts. However, when you're using a VPS, a virtual private server, you're responsible for all of the management, for the installs, for the security, for the updates. And it takes time, and you have to know what you're doing. And that's the beauty of Cloudways. They take care of the VPS. You never see it. They give you a dashboard for managing your sites. However, it comes with a cost. There are some other options, other management dashboards that sit somewhere between Cloudways, where you never see the VPS, and doing it all yourself on the command line. So I took a look at 3 of those. People really rave about GridPane. The support is fantastic. However, it costs $30 a month. Now, if you are managing a large number of servers, that might be worth it just for the support. However, for me, it was a little too pricey. Another one that's been around for a long time is Server Pilot. That one costs $5 a month plus 50 cents per app or website. So since I have 8, that would be $4. So that would be $9 per month. The next one I looked at was RunCloud. Their plan for managing a server is $6.67 a month. So I did some research on Server Pilot and RunCloud and spent some time in the Facebook communities. What I saw was in the RunCloud community, there were company representatives there helping people. And there was occasionally the odd issue, but when there was an issue, the company owned it and addressed it right away. So I was kind of impressed with that. But what sold it for me was this interview on Smart Web Creators with Rajendra Zori. He's the Chief Marketing Officer of RunCloud, and he's very active on social media. I've had a number of interactions with him, and I've seen him involved in a lot of Facebook groups, and I've come to know him as someone who's a straight shooter. In this interview, Devinder asked Raj straight out, do you think it's really feasible for website builders to navigate the complexities of hosting your websites on a cloud VPS? And Raj replied that that was the whole purpose of RunCloud, and that the team was committed to providing the kind of support that people need to be successful. So I decided to give RunCloud a try. During my research, I came across several other VPS providers that I thought might be options, so I added them to the list. WebDoc was one, Hertzner was another, and UpCloud was the third one that I added. I did research on all these. I looked in the forums on Low End Talk where it's kind of user-to-user discussions. It's not an affiliate site. And I also used a site called VPS Benchmarks where you could compare performance head-to-head between different providers. Unfortunately, WebDoc and Hertzner, while they had some good things going for them, I decided not to use them because they didn't have a presence in the United States, and the hosting wisdom is to locate near the majority of your visitors. So this left me with UpCloud and Vulture being the two that had the best performance. Vulture was a little bit better than UpCloud, but one thing I learned about UpCloud was that it allows you to not only scale your VPS up, but you can also scale it down. So that was a good feature that it had. So the next thing I did is I went to their websites and typed in RunCloud to see if they had support for it or knew about it or thought it was important or whatever. And there was nothing found on Vulture, but when I searched in UpCloud, I found that they had a tutorial on how to get started with RunCloud. And as I read through this tutorial, I found that the tutorial also had a link for a $50 promotional credit for UpCloud. So that kind of sealed the deal for me. And I followed the instructions in this tutorial and signed up for UpCloud and got the $50 credit. When you sign up for UpCloud, you get a 3-day free trial, but there's a big notice that you're in trial mode, and there's a note that tells you that to release trial mode, you can make a $10 payment. And it's possible that I could go ahead and connect with RunCloud while in trial mode, but I was pretty sure I wanted to continue and I was going to stick with this, so I went ahead and paid the $10 to get out of trial mode. The note says you get a $10 credit by going ahead and making a $10 payment, but that doesn't stack. So I got the $50 credit, but not this $10 extra, which was fine with me. When you log in, there's an interface to add an SSH key, which I have some information about how I did that with Windows 10 in the text version of the article on webtng.com. There's a link in the description below this YouTube video. And there's also a big button to create your first server and deploy a server. And this is the interface you have when you create a server. So it's basically a long form. And so you choose your location. You can see they have a number of locations around the world. You choose your plan, and this plan comes with 50 gigs, but you could add more if you wanted to. And you choose your operating system, and RunCloud works with Ubuntu 18.04, so I chose that. And then there are some optional things here where you set your time zone, and you can add your SSH key. I've already done that. You give it a host name and a description and choose deploy. So like I said, I've already done that and have my server here. I'd say it took about 3 or 4 minutes to create the server. And one thing that UpCloud does once the server is created is that it emails you the root password and the IP address. And we're going to need the root password when we install RunCloud. Here's the place where you can resize the server. Has some stats. There's an emergency console if you accidentally get locked out of your VPS, or you can set up VNC, another place where you can basically change your plan, resize. You can set up backups. You can do a one-time backup or scheduled backups. And unfortunately, there's no compression on the backups, so you pay for storage. And the storage is 6 cents per gig per month, which is not too bad. If you want to take a backup of your disk, your VPS, you can set that up here. This is information about your network interfaces. And here you can enter your firewall rules. The default firewall setup allows you to install RunCloud, and RunCloud sets up a firewall. So this is disabled here. There's also the option up here to add team members, and you can look at your usage. You can see it's costing me about 36 cents a day for the VPS, which isn't too bad. The next step then was to go to RunCloud. So on RunCloud, I picked this plan, which was to manage one server. Clicked here and went ahead and created my account and gave in my billing information. There is the option for a free trial if you want to try that out. Once you create your account, then you can connect your server. And there's a form for doing that. So like I picked UpCloud, I gave it a name, and entered the IP address from UpCloud and clicked add this server. And when you do that, you get an install script, which looks something like this. And you copy this script, and then you're going to have to SSH into UpCloud, into your UpCloud VPS, and log in and paste that script in, and it will install all of the RunCloud stack. And I have some more instructions on how to do that in the text version of this on the WebTNG website. When that script is done, you get an output in the terminal window that has your MySQL root password and your RunCloud user password. So you're going to need to copy those and keep them because you may need them later. Once the install process is done, you'll see the connected server in your RunCloud dashboard. So let's take a quick look around, and then I'll install a WordPress web application so you see that process. As you can see, I've already got 8 installed here. Here's a summary of the server, and these stats here I think are maybe the max usage in the last 24 hours. And if you look at the server health screen, then I think this is a 15-minute interval. This is where you install the web application, and so we're going to come back to that. This screen just lists the databases, and you can add a database user to it. This is a screen where you create a system user, and we'll come back and look at that in a minute. Here's where you can add the SSH keys. You can add a deployment key here if you're using Git. These are the PHP command line if you need to run some PHP scripts. You can set up a cron job separately from WordPress cron. This is a supervisor process. This sets up the notifications. These are the services that are installed by default. You can see the ones that I have running. I'm not using a few of them. This is where you can set firewall rules. And Fail to Ban is a Linux program that bans IP addresses that are trying to brute force attack. These are settings for transferring your server or changing your IP address. And then these are server activity logs. So the web application area is where most of the management administration tasks are located. When you click Create Web App, you're given two choices, a custom PHP web application or a one-click WordPress install. When you click the PHP web application, you're given a form. And when you click the one-click WordPress install, you're given a similar form to fill out with a little bit more information related to WordPress. One thing I noticed is that by default it gives you the option to use an existing system user, and when you start out the only user there you can use is RunCloud. Now it's a very good security practice to use a different owner for each web application. If you uncheck this, you can type a name in there, but there's no place to specify a password. So I think after you do that, you have to go to System User, and in the System User area, you have to change the password on that user. But the way I did it instead, and this is kind of our walkthrough of adding a WordPress app, is I went to System User, I created the user for the application, and I generated the password and copied it to the clipboard and then said use this password. I saved the password in case it was needed at another time and then clicked add this user. So this is the username and password for the web application. It's very possible you might need that password again. So then I went back to web application, create web app, and one-click WordPress install, and I gave the site a name. I'm going to use my own domain name, and this tells you what you have to put into your DNS records. I'm going to use an existing user, and I picked the user I just created from the list. Then you have the option for the PHP version, your web server combination, and then you add in your information here that you want to use. I found that I had to generate the password from here. I tried using the password I already had for that WordPress site and it gave me an error, so I used this one. I also copied this to a notepad. It's once you, well, you'll see. I'm going to need this username and password to log into the site for the first time. So then I clicked Create Web Application, and it's that fast. When you're within a web application here, this side menu applies just to that website. If you click here, you'll go back up a level. So the first thing I did when I was doing this is I went in and added the naked version of the domain name without the subdomain. So I have both of those, and then I went here and created the Let's Encrypt certificate. You have to select here whether it's a live or staging, and then click Submit. And that can take a couple of minutes to work, but once it has worked, you can go and hit the website. And here we have our default WordPress install. And I'm going to log in. I have to use that username and password created during the app creation process the first time. And then what I did is I had already taken a backup of my site before I changed the DNS IP address. And so the next step was just to restore it, do an import, and pick the file. And you might use some other migration plugin or method, but that's just the one that I used. And then you're going to have to log in again. And this time you have to use the old password that you had before you migrated because you've overwritten the WordPress install created by RunCloud. So that's how easy it was to migrate a site. Just to look a little bit at these other menu items, here are your stats. We don't have any yet. If you're using Git with the site, you can create your own scripts here. There's a pretty nice file manager which you can use, and you can go in and edit files. Then there's a settings menu where you can change the PHP version, your path, your web server stack, your mode, and you can set a lot of PHP settings here if you need to do that. So that's the place where you can do that. There's a tools menu that has a place where you can fix or change the ownership of files and directories. There's a web server log here where you can see the Nginx log, the Nginx error log, the Apache log, and the Apache error log. If you're using the stack like I am with Nginx plus Apache, the PHP errors show in here. If you're not using the Apache, then I think the PHP errors show under the Nginx access log. There's also a place here where you can set up a special RunCloud caching, and this activity log is just related to the app, that the app was created and so on. And I think that's pretty much it here under the applications. So there were a few gotchas that I ran into. One is that in the Facebook group, I asked what things you might need to do after installing your server. And one problem that a few people have run into is that their database logs can grow large. So the suggestion was to turn off these logs. And I found a blog post that told about that. So I had to SSH in, go to the directory, and make that change to skip log bin. RunCloud is using MariaDB, and that's the command to disable the binary log. Another kind of gotcha is that when I looked at the database section here, it says collation is not set. And so that was kind of a surprise. And I did some research and found that the MariaDB default character set and collation just happen to be the exact same as the recommended ones to use for WordPress. So I guess it's using the default, and that's correct. But, I wasted an hour kind of researching that. And then the other gotcha is the backups. So the backup, they give you 30 gigs of free space, but you actually also have to pay per backup instance. So it's 3 cents per backup file, basically. And this isn't backing up all of your server, it's backing up the web applications and the databases. So when you look at instances, basically you're backing up the web application files and you're backing up the database. So for each website, that's 2 files, 3 cents each per file. So that's 6 cents per website per day. And so if you had kind of a regular rotation, then that, I guess that could add up some. So that was one thing I was a little bit disappointed in that. And I saw in the Facebook group some mention that maybe they'll allow people to use their own external backup space like your Google Drive or pCloud. That was one kind of odd thing. And since you're only backing up the website, you can use your own WordPress backup to do that as well. This would be a nice kind of safety net, I guess. But anyway, so that was the other kind of gotcha. Something else to note is that phpMyAdmin is not installed by default, and their suggestion is that you connect to your database from your desktop using Heidi SQL. I just happen to have Heidi SQL installed because it comes with Laragon, but they have an article here on how to do that, and I followed the article and it works great. You're basically, with Heidi SQL, you can create an SSH tunnel into the MySQL instance for your website, and you can, query and update the database or anything that you need to do there. And this is more secure because you're using SSH instead of having phpMyAdmin available kind of online or something. So it's not really a gotcha, but it's something to take in mind. It took me under 5 minutes to read this article and set it up, but it was something I hadn't had to do before. Now, the plus side is that a couple of times I've asked questions of support, and I got answers like in 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that. It was really fast. And the support gave me good information, so I was happy about that. That was something nice to see. So in conclusion, we've looked at UpCloud, and we've looked at RunCloud, and we've looked at setting up WordPress using the RunCloud Dashboard. If you've watched the video to this point, then I think what you've done is you've let me be your guinea pig, and you can kind of partially look over my shoulder and get a sense if setting up your own VPS and administering it through the RunCloud Dashboard and installing and administering your websites through RunCloud is something that you're comfortable with or not, if the cost-benefit analysis works for you or not. I'm pretty happy with UpCloud and RunCloud at this point. This is a little bit of an experiment for me, but I'm pretty confident, especially with the good support from RunCloud, that I'm going to be successful with this, and that now I've got everything set up, I won't need to spend a lot of time on server administration. That's the setup and configuration and walkthrough of a VPS using UpCloud and RunCloud and installing the WordPress websites. There's a full text version of this on my website, webtng.com. It has more screenshots and some of the links that aren't in the video. There are also other articles and tutorials and walkthroughs available on the website. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you for watching.